There are many legs to your economic plan that you're laying out. That's
so
big.
No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security benefits for seniors, which is so great. Think of it. And no tax on overtime.
The certainty that we will see no tax on tips become the law of the land, I think, is very close to 100%.
Except it's not close to 100% because those are the tax cuts that are on the chopping block now that the bill has made its way to the Senate. Are you surprised, Waz?
No, I'm not surprised that the tax cut designed to shovel wealth up from the bottom to the top will not benefit those at the bottom.
Yep, exactly. So look, as we suspected, the Republicans are considering essentially taking a hatchet to the few parts of this so-called big, beautiful bill that would actually benefit working people, working Americans. And the vast majority of jobs in America now are in the service sector. A lot of these people get paid a wage, usually it's minimum wage or even lower than that, and make the bulk of their income through tips. Now, the House version of the big, beautiful bill included a tax, basically the first $25,000 a service worker makes would not be taxed through tips, right? That they make through tips would not be taxed. Now that looks like it's not gonna make it in the final bill because senators wanna get rid of it. Now, why do they want to get rid of it? Well, because days after the Congressional Budget Office put out their estimate that the spending bill would in fact increase the federal deficit by $2.41 trillion, Politico is now reporting that Senate Finance Republicans are looking to scale back these key provisions on Trump's tax policy wish list. And exacerbating that deficit issue, according to Politico, is that the House version of this mega bill would restore tax incentives for research and development, business equipment, and debt interest through 2029, which Trump has indicated he supports. However, that's not good enough for the senators. They want to give more goodies and cookies to their donors. So Senate Republicans are dead set on making them permanent, not just to 2029, but permanent. And that's obviously going to make the bill a lot more costly. So to offset that cost, okay, the GOP senators are looking to water down other tax provisions they believe aren't as pro-growth. Let's stop and talk about more money in our pockets. And by the way, I'm not even in the service sector, so it's not going to benefit me. I don't care. I still think that that's one of the provisions in the bill that's important to keep. I want ordinary working Americans to enjoy tax cuts so they have more money in their pockets so they can go out there and do what? Stimulate the economy. Okay, because businesses, billionaires, millionaires, like they're not stimulating the economy, they're hoarding their wealth. So you want to talk about growth? Let's talk about the people who actually spend their money, and that's working class Americans. I'm so sick of this narrative. It's so disgusting. But nonetheless, those policies include no tax on tips, no taxes on overtime, and tax relief for seniors. Those are all considered pro-growth tax cuts. All proposals Trump touted on the campaign trail and collectively boast a price tag of roughly $230 billion, according to the Joint Committee on Taxation. Some senators have also recommended cuts to Medicare or the Federal Reserve. Of course they want to cut Medicare. It's like the least surprising thing ever. But of course, if they really wanted to reduce the impact of this bill, or the impact it'll have on the deficit, they would target other tax breaks that were implemented dating back to 2017. Take a look.
Republicans are, in fact, adding some new tax cuts here. Those are the no taxes on tips, overtime, some benefits for seniors. These tax cuts are significant. However, they pale in comparison to the biggest cost in the bill. That is extending those Trump tax cuts. Altogether, the Congressional Budget Office says the tax cuts in this bill add up to $3.7 trillion.
Abolish Congress. We're having a conversation about abolishing ICE. No, abolish Congress. Abolish Congress. Useless scum, okay? Congress is so useless. I can't stand them. I can't stand them, Woz. I can't stand them. Anyway, like, what's the point of Congress? All they do, like, they've got corporate genitals like shoved down their throat. They can't get enough of it, okay? I'm just keeping it 100. They don't do jack for us. Nothing. Nothing for the American people, nothing for ordinary American workers. All they do is facilitate fellatio on behalf of their donors. That's what they do. Democrats, Republicans, doesn't matter, with the exception of like a handful of people, if that. I can't stand them. Woz, take it away.
Yeah, it's quite grotesque what they're doing with this bill. And again, the indoctrination that we've all been under, this idea that growth and GDP and these economic indicators that give us the indication of what a quote unquote healthy economy possesses, and words like, and it's like, yeah, of course. And the average person is like, yeah, of course, I want to grow the economy. Yeah, of course, GDP growth sounds great. Just ask yourself, guys, decades of growth, GDP growth in this country, who has the benefits of this economy accrued to? We know the answer. It's not the median worker. It's just not. We know wages have been stagnant while growth in the economy, in the GDP, in the profit margins of every single major industry has grown exponentially. And so where has that growth gone? It hasn't gone into infrastructure of the country, making people's lives better, investment in our people here. It's just gone into the pockets of, the people who are already doing the best among us. And again, man, just the idea that these people don't mind leaking, that they're thinking about cutting Medicaid, Medicare, okay, in order so that people that are earning a wage of like 1.5 million could get 400K back. It's like, it's lunacy.
Look, aside from the taxes we pay for Social Security and the taxes we pay for Medicare, and you can see it on your pay stub. You can see how much you're contributing to those universal, very popular programs. Aside from that, I want to understand, what the F am I paying taxes for? What am I paying taxes? Maybe, consider this, maybe if the rich and corporations were funding Israel's genocide to the extent that all of us workers are, maybe there would be some brakes on that car. Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm disgusted by this, Woz. What the F am I paying my taxes for?
And that's another thing. One of the other biggest line items on the budget, of course, we have $1.1 trillion or $1.25 trillion military budget. That's just for 1 year. Like, you see those, like that number that you saw, 3.7 trillion, that's over 10 years. The military budget is $1 trillion for one. We're increasing the budget, and for what? We're putting more money in Lockheed and Raytheon's pockets, and for what? Nobody can explain it to us.
We spent $1 trillion last year to service the United States debt. So we've got over $1 trillion on defense spending, okay? $1 trillion on servicing our debt. Why do we have debt in the first place? Part of the reason why we have debt is because of these deep tax cuts for corporations and the rich. And Republicans love to talk about like, oh, we're really screwing over future generations. And they are. They're not even just screwing over future generations. This generation is screwed. We're already spending $1 trillion to service our debt. This generation is screwed. But it's screwed at the behest of the haves and at the detriment of the have-nots. How is that fair? How is that fair? It's so disgusting, Woz. It's so disgusting. Now, beyond the fact that, look, targeting the few good provisions that benefit working people isn't really the best way or the most effective way to save money, these Republicans are also risking upsetting their daddy, Donald Trump. We'll see, though. We'll see. He campaigned aggressively on no tax on tips, but did he really mean it? Now, Ways and Means Chair Representative Jason Smith says, I think that the United States Senate will not want to scale down the president's priorities. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. And two of his top priorities. Are there some tweaks that they can do to it that I would recommend? Yes, and I have recommended. But some state Senate Republicans who sit on that finance panel have come out more forcibly against the popular policy. So for instance, of course, it's Ron Johnson. When Politico asked Senator Ron Johnson whether he believes no tax on tips or no tax on overtime are pro-growth, he gave a terse nope. That's right, because he's got his we keep it classy and move on. Senator Tom Tillis is arguing that no tax on overtime should be rewritten so it only applies to people working over 40 hours. Working over 40 hours a week. What do you think overtime is, you piece of These people are so out of touch with ordinary people. It's amazing. Senators Rand Paul, Mike Lee, and Rick Scott have also said that the legislation doesn't have enough money, or save enough money, I should say, and are threatening to vote against it. Just vote against it. Just vote against it. Like, vote against it. Like, let's stop pretending like you're going to vote against it, but ultimately you're going to vote in favor of it. Okay? Well, like, if you're going to vote against it, then just do it and shut the F up.
Well, but the legislation, Anna, doesn't save enough money because you're slashing revenues. Like, that's why. It's the tax cut.
It's so stupid.
It's so obvious as to why the funding of this is so haywire and insane for the allegedly fiscally conservative party, fiscally minded. It's a joke. This is all they ever do, is spend us into oblivion. And it's for, their corporate overlords. And the thing I want the audience to realize too about these guys, these politicians, to a certain extent, you can read this as some level of bravery on their part, because their constituents are going to hate this. It's going to affect them at the ballot box. Like, they're going to be probably they're just handing the Democrats, the most dysfunctional clown car of a party that we've ever seen. They're just handing them like a victory, like Elon Musk, their boy, calling social a Ponzi scheme, cutting Medicaid to give tax cuts to the richest people. Like, they're just handing electoral victories and they don't care. But I promise you, you will never see this level of bravery in the other direction. They will never face down their corporate overlords. Us, they'd be like, whatever, who gives a damn? Whatever. They kick me out of Congress, they kick me out of the Senate. I'll be on somebody's board someday. I'll sit on some fake think tank or whatever. I'll rake in the money no matter what. But they never ever, and we always hear stuff like, well, sacrifices need to be made. And there's gotta be some belt tightening. Yeah. And there's gotta. Never applies to the corporate sector. Never applies to the richest people in the country.
What happens if we organize a movement where people refuse taxation without representation? And I mean it. Like, what would happen?
Big trouble. They'd have to get the National Guard involved because
what are they gonna do? Like, the Marines are gonna bust through my door and like murder me for refusing to pay my taxes without representation, by the way, because Congress is useless. Congress doesn't represent us. What am I paying my taxes for? Why am I paying taxes so my money can get funneled to a terrorist state, the state of Israel, to carry out atrocities and genocide in Gaza? I want to understand that. Why is it that my money is better suited paying for that trash as opposed to Medicaid for my fellow Americans? Someone explain that to me. Someone needs to explain that to me. How are you gonna, on one hand, argue, oh my God, I'm so afraid of the deficit and the debt, while shelling out billions of dollars year after year to Israel? And then also giving massive tax breaks to the rich, while nickel and diming Americans, who are the ones who pay a far greater percentage of their income toward taxes. It's just so gross. It's so gross. So who benefits from this bill? We already know. But let me give you another data point that you can chew on, because the Penn-Wharton analysis of the House spending bill found that it, of course, disproportionately helps wealthier Americans, households in the first income quintile, I always love an opportunity to say quintile, lose about $940 in 2026, reflecting net reductions in taxes and transfers, including cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. The top 10% of the income distribution receives about 65% of the total value of the legislation, because of course they do. We're all slaves to our corporate overlords, to the rich. And all this unrest that you're seeing, yes, you can argue that it's about whatever the hot button issue of the day is, but there's a lot of tension in the country because there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of anger. The unrest stems from the unfairness of our political system and our economic system. When people are working more than 40 hours a week and they're unable to pay their rent, mortgage, grocery store prices, yeah, that's gonna lead to a lot of rage in this country. It's just, anyway, freaking, I don't believe for a second that there's a single, well, there might be one, and I think that's Josh Hawley. He's got other issues, but I do think he's a little more populist, economically speaking, than pretty much any other Republican. There are no other Republican economic populists. They all pretend, they all pay lip service to working class Americans, and then in the dead of night, they'll F you. They'll F you hard. They'll do it repeatedly because this is who they are. And Democrats used to be better, but they're not much better these days. So here we are. Yeah, you're right, Waz. I do think that Republicans are going to pay a price for this legislation in the midterms, potentially the next presidential election as well. But what's the other alternative?
It's not looking great. I tell you that much. The DNC chair is on a freaking Zoom call trying to quiet quit. Like it's absolutely so freaking bleak. Their answer is, they said rope-a-dope, play dead. Let Trump and the Republicans ruin our lives. And yeah, we'll just get elected by default for nothing. And so we can get in there and do nothing again. That's where we're at. Until somebody can Donald Trump that party, meaning single-handedly go in there and change it and make it in their image, a more progressive image, this is what we're gonna get. The infrastructure is such that, the Republicans are beholden to the corporate class, but so are the Democrats. There's just they might have, the Republicans got a lot of oil money, floating around, fossil fuel type of stuff, and, different sectors, and it might be a little bit more diversified, but it's still the corporate class and these brain dead consultants and the same people, retreads. They're gonna come up with the same ideas. They want nothing to do with an economic populist message. Sort of moderate on the social stuff, because let's face it, that's where the median voter is. But most people on both sides are feeling it in the pocketbook, and I think that would be an attractive message. But it's hard to see that coming out of this crew.
I have absolutely no hope that change is going to arise from our electoral system or our politicians. Change comes from the bottom up, and it comes from people organizing effectively, putting their BS infighting and personal gripes off to the side, finding a way to work together with like-minded individuals on these economic issues and demanding more. Politicians aren't going to do good things out of the kindness of their own hearts. And I don't care what political party they're coming from. They do good things when they're forced to do good things. But right now, the electorate is not in any way organized. We don't have labor unions the way we did, in the lead up to the New Deal. So that's a problem. And we have, holier than thou people on the left who would never in a million years even consider working with people who agree with them on the right on some of these economic issues. And that stands in our way as well. So the real question is, what's more important to you? Sitting around and waiting for politicians to screw you again? or taking matters into your own hands, thinking strategically, finding ways to work and organize with like-minded individuals to essentially hold these politicians' feet to the fire and demand more.
And
because,
by the way,
yeah.
Anna, just on that point, the revolution isn't gonna happen amongst our cohort of people. It's not gonna be college educated, white collar workers like us that spearhead this thing. As you know, from just go on the internet and listen to people speak, or like, we've all read the horror stories of people going into DSA meetings. They bring their freaking aunt who's like, a blue collar worker somewhere, and it's like, all right, DSA, and they do a freaking land acknowledgement to open up the meeting. Like, it ain't gonna be the DSA types that get this done. And that's not to say, there aren't DSA people doing good work, but it's going to be non-college grad, non-white collar people who get tired of things being the way that they are. And the fact of the matter is, when I look around at our cohort, and yes, I'm amongst them. I'm, got a nice little cushy media job, like, my no calluses on my hands. Like, I am one of these people. When I look at our cohort of people, oh my Lord, no, normal working people do not like you. They cannot like you. You're annoying. You speak a wholly different language. You're in a freaking bubble. Like some of these ideas that these people that call themselves leftists espouse, like literally just take that idea for a walk in an actual working class neighborhood and not in Silver Lake or whatever. I promise you, bro, you will be laughed out of the room. Okay. And so, yep. That's another part of it. I don't want to be like helpless. Like if you're, a white collar worker, college educated worker, it's not that you're completely useless. It's just that there's a lot less of us than there are of people with those kind of jobs, straight up.
Yeah.
And so that's where the leaders have to come from. Look, that's where the movement has to be spearheaded.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.